Do you remember the point in your life where you became self-aware?
Skynet defense system now activated.
Sorry, that's a little strong for an intro. Let's try that again. My name is Sir Lionheart, and I haven't uploaded anything in over a year. As much as I wanted this to be a follow-up to my last video, today's topic doesn't cover more about the Dino Crisis series. Instead, we're going to be discussing something that doesn't get nearly enough justice: the message of Metal Gear Solid 1 and a bit of MGS 2. Like your mother, think pieces on Metal Gear Solid have been done to death. From the creation, the gameplay, to the legendary characters, and much more. What the fuck can I say to do with MGS that you already haven't heard about over and over again? Well, my own experience and how I interpreted the overall messages that the game was trying to relay. Because there's always a difference between the creator's interpretation versus your own, and it's up to you to choose which one ultimately means the most to you. It's like those people who pronounce GIF with a J. I don't care if that's how it's meant to be said, it's wrong and I refuse to conform to your reality.
If you would have told us the truth, we would have told you to shove that red pill right up your ass.
In all seriousness, I highly suggest channels like Super Bunny Hop and Futuristan Productions for in-depth information about the series. And while you're at it, you should also visit thesnakesoup.org. Back to my first question. Do you remember the point in your life where you first became self-aware? I like to imagine Neo first became self-aware prior to him searching for Morpheus. It had to have been before the first Matrix movie, where he finally realized having a green tint on everything isn't exactly normal. You know, that point where you come to when you finally realize that everything isn't exactly the way it seems. For me, it was beating MGS 1. I was 12 and pretending to be sick from school that day. Which honestly was the best decision I'd made in a while, because I recently got into Yu-Gi-Oh! But decided to get the OG Yu-Gi deck instead of the Kaiba one, and missed out on owning my first Blue Eyes White Dragon. But let's keep this moving. At one point in your life, some of you consumed a type of media that shaped who you are as a person. For me, and if you haven't figured it out by now, it was MGS. This movie game where some dude's brother has a badass robot that you have to destroy on your own and to also not get murdered by his outcast high school buddies. Okay, so you've got the hot one,
I'm long shot.
the big one,
Snake!
the one who's into cosplay,
Revolver Assad.
the mysterious one, the other one who's into cosplay but also BDSM, or something like that.
Oh, gross.
My relationship with MGS was an uphill battle at the beginning. I first played the game when it got released in 1998. I was living in Manchester at the time. There was no chance I was getting a PS1 anytime soon, so I had to rely on friends for that. My one friend, let's call him Steve, had a cousin who had a chipped PS1, which meant it could play pirated games. I had no idea what that meant. So after a few long weeks of convincing my friend to let me play this game, he finally invited me over. My first ever experience with a PS1 was with MGS1. Steve had basically provided me heroin in gaming form. From that point on, I needed to chase that dragon. And boy, did I chase the fuck out of that dragon. It wouldn't be until 2000 where I'd saved up enough money to buy a PS1 and MGS1. I was in Canada now, Mississauga to be exact. After plugging in the PS1 and turning on the game, I finally experienced what it was like to be a man. I mean, the game was rated M for mature, which meant it wasn't for kids. And I had somehow convinced my mum to let this be my first game. I will forever thank the clueless rep who sold us the game and console for not saying anything. So to my surprise, the game felt a lot different when you didn't have the bandana or stealth camo unlocked. I learned very quickly that this was not going to be as easy as it was the first time. Mainly because I was playing the game wrong. Up until this point, I'd never really played a game where the goal wasn't to punch someone in the face repeatedly until the problem went away. After figuring that out, I spent a good 3 months trying to defeat the second boss. I hadn't discovered GameFAQs.com by this point, so after one night of experimenting with every weapon, I came to discover that if I threw the chaff grenade, the bastard in the tank would stop shooting me. Once I figured it out, it took me maybe a handful of tries before I got up to my next challenge, the last fictional character to give me actual nightmares, the Cyborg Ninja. Even in its pixelated visuals, seeing a hallway full of dead soldiers with a lone door between me and a psychotic cyborg ninja painted quite the vivid picture. Now keep in mind, I was only ever allowed to play games on the weekend, and only for 2 hours at that. I spent weeks having nightmares about this ninja chasing me. Until one night, I got tired of being afraid and decided to do something about it. Using my recently acquired stealth skills, I snuck into the living room, set up the PS1 as quietly as I could, and then fought with everything that I had. And if you're wondering, yes, I did get caught. Turns out, yelling yes at the top of my lungs after killing a boss in the dead of night is usually going to attract some attention. Everything else after that was far easier. Except Liquid's final boss fight. Because holy shit, this is where you separate the solids from the liquids. This fight made me question if I even wanted to beat the game anymore. But I had to try and save Meryl. Even though I'd submit during the torture, maybe there was still a chance to save her.
Meryl.
After what seemed like endless attempts at wanting to see the end of this stupid fucking game, I got there. I saw the credits, and it changed my life. I had done what I felt was the impossible at that point in my life. I hadn't just beaten a game that was made for adults without anyone helping me. Sure, I didn't save Meryl, but fuck it, an ending is an ending. When the credits rolled, I started clapping for some reason. I don't know why I'm telling you this, because it was weird looking back at it then. I try and rationalize it as me acknowledging the achievement itself. It's not often that you're aware that you're experiencing an important moment in your life within that moment. Now don't get me wrong, I was 12. The messages the game was trying to relay got through to me in a very basic form, which is proof of good storytelling. Well, to an extent. Not to discredit Hideo Kojima, but there's a lot of exposition you also had to get through. But at this point, I was very much committed to understanding what the fuck was going on in this game. I had never experienced a game as an actual in-depth world, rather than something that was just on surface level. I mean, when you played Mario, Crash Bandicoot, or Spyro, it was pretty straightforward for what the overall goal was. You collect shit, and you beat the boss. Metal Gear Solid was something else. It was an experience. It was beyond what a game was meant to be, at least to me at that point. And of course, it ultimately started my journey of being madly in love with the series. There were so many aspects about this media that made me want more. Is it weird to say that a game taught you life lessons? Because it really did. It was the first time in my life I had persevered without any assistance to accomplish a goal such as beating a difficult game. Even with it just being a game, it solidified a type of work ethic I would have never had were it not for my experience. From the perspective of a 12-year-old, the overall picture made sense, but the details and underlying messages were a bit skewered. It would take me a few years after I stopped being angry about having to play as Raiden in MGS 2 before it all clicked. Besides the obvious messages of nukes being bad and all British people being evil, there was a specific scene that laid some groundwork for the person that I would eventually become. Now, I would like to say, things are about to get a bit cheesy and weird from this point on, but what else would you expect from a game about Metal Gear? It's practically the law at this point. So that psychotic ninja I had spent weeks trying to defeat, he comes back to save Snake, and actually manages to do some damage before being killed. Before he dies, he leaves Snake and ultimately the player with this.
Snake, we're not tools of the government or anyone else. Fighting was the only thing I was good at. But at least I always fought for what I believed in. Snake, farewell.
Foolish man. He prayed for death, and it found him. You see, you can't protect anyone, not even yourself. Die!
The way Snake screams at the loss of his only best friend rips through your core. I had angry tears after experiencing that for the first time, and for once it wasn't because of a skill issue. I'd never felt so strongly about a storyline in a game, or let alone a movie at this point. The English fucking ruin everything, don't they?
Snake, did you like my sunglasses?
Anyway, the overall message I received was that those in charge will abuse their power and use you for personal gain. And if you're going to spend your life doing something, it should be towards something you actually believe in. This ideology clearly meant something to Snake, because we see him relay the same message to Raiden in MGS 2 during a codec call.
How could you come back to all this? Why keep fighting?
There's something my best friend said to me once.
What?
We're not tools of the government or anyone else. Fighting was the only thing I was good at, but at least I always fought for what I believed in.
He even builds on that message with his own input.
Then what are you and Otacon fighting for?
A future. You can stop being part of a mistake, starting now.
What am I? What am I supposed to do?
Find something to believe in, and find it for yourself. And when you do, pass it on to the future.
Believe in what?
That's your problem. Come on.
I love that little exchange. The dismissiveness in Snake's response is perfect, because Raiden's question is the exact same thing I was asking. What the fuck do I believe in? A question I find myself asking to this day. These two quotes have motivated me, and I'd like to imagine countless other people to want more in their life. That being complacent only breeds apathy and regret. As I record this, I recently decided to resign from a job that I've worked at for 10 years. I would train people on how to use software, and usually it was on site, which was very fun. I got to travel a lot. After COVID, that changed. I had to adapt to the situation, so we started doing Zoom meetings, and on top of that, the reason why I stopped doing YouTube videos was because my job ended up requiring me to create video tutorials for their application. This was around the same time I had just released the DC2 video. It was a very prophetic coincidence. It was terrible because I stopped doing this new thing that I really loved and had so many ideas for, but I didn't have the energy or mental capacity to do it justice. I would come up with ideas for something and then put them to the side for later, never really knowing when later would actually be. Then one day, I decided I wanted to replay MGS 1 and 2 again, so I grabbed the re-release and started working towards getting the platinum trophies for 1 and 2, mainly because they're my favourites. 3 is cool, but too James Bondy for me. I also love media where it's meant to be quite the mindfuck, so the first 2 are definitely up my alley. This time, I decided to watch all the cutscenes and codec calls, which in turn reminded me of why I loved these games in the first place. It ultimately led me to question my own current path and my future. Re-experiencing these games made me confront my own issues, and now I'm working towards a better future for myself. As scary and uncertain as that may seem, I at least get to do the one thing I've been wanting to do for over a year, making videos that I would watch for the shit that I love. I don't know what comes next, but I do hope it involves me making more videos. When I find myself worrying about the uncertain, I just need to remember one thing. A strong person doesn't need to read the future. They make their own. So, this was a very weird video, and if you stuck around to the end, I really appreciate your time. I'm very much testing the waters with this video, but the goal of the video is to get the ball rolling and lead into bigger projects, and I really want to talk about MGS. But with that out of the way, what was your self-aware moment? Have you had one yet? Or are you still plugged into the Matrix because you also like the way that steak looked? Did you have a game or any type of media that influenced the person that you are today? Did you realize when you woke up today a random video on YouTube was going to make you question your reality? I am genuinely curious with what you have to say and would love to hear your stories. I have been Sir Lionheart, and I want you to find something to believe in. Find it for yourself, and when you do, pass it on to the future.